Look at the position. Can you tell me who's better here, white or black? If you're not new to chess, you may already know that there are 4 factors you need to consider when you're evaluating a chess position: material advantage, king safety, piece activity, and pawn structure. And I received a wonderful question, actually 2 questions, under the description of evaluating a chess position in my Chessable course from making moves to making plans. You can check it out on Chessable if you want to improve your understanding of strategy and plan making process. I'll leave the link down in the description, so you're free to check it out. You can see the questions on the screen, and today I'm going to be answering them. And to be honest with you, evaluating a chess position is a very advanced thing to do, so the concepts are very hard to grasp. So I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can, and every position has to be treated separately and critically. I'm gonna try to explain my best answering those questions. If I answer the questions shortly, I could say to the first question, the answer is no. You have to go through all the 4 factors before saying who's better. You can't just say that you're better because you have material. And to the second question is, normally piece activity is better than pawn structure. In most of the situation, it is the way it is. But it's not that simple. So let me try to explain it in a long way for those who are interested, and please feel free to ask any questions down below in the comments, because as I said, the topic is super challenging. So first, let's take a look at this position. Here, white has a queen and black doesn't have a queen. And we can say, well, yes, white is already better, right? But can you stop at that? In this position, let's go for other criteria. White king is safe. White pieces are somewhere active, and white pawn structure is okay. So given that they have more material, white is better. But now let's take a look at this position. White still has one more queen, but let's take a look at other criteria. And the most important one is king safety, because white king is on g3. So that is not a safe position for the king whatsoever, especially given the piece activity that black has, the knight, the bishop, and the rook. So if black manages to use the fact that white king is not safe, they could even win the game. So in this case, you can't say white is better. You can say white will be better if they put their king to safety. But at this point, black has the compensation for the sacrifice piece. And now I turn the engine on so you can see what the bar says about the evaluation. So black is way better, and in fact, if they calculate everything correctly, they can even checkmate. But their advantage is somewhere dynamic, which means it could easily disappear. In the future, I'm going to be making a video about dynamic versus static advantage as well, so let me know if you would be interested in a video like that as well. That being said, if you have more material, it doesn't mean that you're better if your king is not safe. Because if your king is not safe, your opponent could use that. And of course, whenever you evaluate a chess position, you need to consider whose turn it is. For instance, in this position, white has more material, but you can see that the diagonal to the king is open. So if it's white to move, they're probably gonna develop their knight and they're gonna be absolutely okay. But if it's black to move, they're gonna check the king and they actually can checkmate. So that being said, you can't say that white is better because of their material advantage. And of course here black wins by force, but you still always need to consider tactics, right? And king safety helps you look for tactics as well. Another very important thing you need to keep in mind when you think that you have more material is piece activity. So here, white has 5 pawns and black has 6 pawns, and the kings are actually safe. Doesn't mean that black is better. Not really, because white has a bishop and a rook that are way more active than black bishop and rook. And if it stays the way it is, white has enough compensation to call the position equal, and maybe they could even overtake it if they manage to attack the black pieces. But if black manages to unravel their position, improve their bishop, improve their rook, they're gonna be better because they have more material. But here, white has enough compensation to call this position equal. Or another example, white has a rook and 3 pawns versus bishop and 2 pawns. But if it's black to move, they could actually go bishop to f3, freezing the white rook on g1 forever and ever. And even though white is up in material, you can't say that white is better because black piece activity actually overtakes it. And unfortunately, because there is nothing else to do for black, it's still going to be a draw, but white rook is doing nothing in comparison with the black bishop. However, if it's white to move, they could go f4 and they could still get the rook out and activate that. And if they can succeed doing that, then yes, they're gonna be better and they're gonna be winning the game. And again, you should always keep in mind whose turn it is, because maybe your opponent could do something to change the evaluation, or you can do it yourself. So again, the answer to the first question is you should always go through all the 4 factors before saying that you're better just because you have more material. King says your piece activity could easily overtake material advantage, especially if your pieces are not that active or your king is super bad. Now let's approach the second question. As I said before, piece activity usually means more than pawn structure. Like here, white has 3 pawn islands and black has just 2 pawn islands. But does it mean that black is better? If we compare the rooks and the bishops, again, we could say that white is better, simply because their pieces are more active, and black passive pieces cannot use the fact that white has more pawn islands. Or another example, here white has doubled pawns, but look at their knight and their bishop. That gives white an opportunity to actually go queen g4 if that's their turn and attack the black king. And even if it's black to move here, to be honest with you, they can't really improve their position very much. So white is gonna be better no matter whether it's black to move or white to move. So again, usually piece activity means more than pawn structure, but if we talk about dynamic advantage, if your opponent can easily unravel their pieces or trade their passive pieces for your active pieces, and you're gonna be left out with the bad pawn structure, then you're gonna be worse. Again, piece activity matters more, but piece activity is something that could easily disappear long term. Then the pawn structure is gonna take the major role. I know the topic is very challenging and complicated, but I still want to invite you to get through the 5 positions. In every single one, it's white to move, and I want you to take a look at them and try to tell me who's better considering all the 4 factors that we discussed. That would be great if you could leave the comments under this video, and if you could add the explanations why you think white is better or why you think black is better in a specific position.